Hello everyone, and welcome to my Days of Our Lives official. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Brady asks Tate whether he has spoken to Holly on today's episode of Days of Our Lives, but he hasn't. She is unaware that Sophia is keeping the child. He simply isn't able to tell Holly. Even the idea of becoming a father is making him anxious. Brady assures him that although Tate's life will alter, he still believes in his son's resilience. After that, he instructs Tate to inform Holly that he still loves her. Tate can't help but blame Ava, believing that if Sophia's mother hadn't learned, everything would have ended by now. Brady argues that Ava is not to blame and that there was a misunderstanding. Tate claims that even though he is aware that he is the one who conceived Sophia, this shouldn't have happened because they utilized protection. Brady begins to scold Tate about how difficult it is for him as well, but before he can continue, Tate rushes out to visit Holly and bumps into Amy at the door. Brady asked her to speak. Dazed Tate observes them with dismay from the rear while Brady stands in his living room with his arms folded while Amy speaks to him. After the two parents introduce themselves, Amy demands that Tate stay when he wants to go quickly. When Brady asks where to start, she responds, wedding planning, as they sat down. Brady is a little taken aback, and Tate restates their decision to not get married. According to Amy, their desires and what is best for them are two different things because they are minors. With a sigh, Brady informs Mrs. Choi that he concurs with his son. For them, marriage isn't the ideal solution. What if Amy says that abortion isn't the best course of action? Although she doesn't want Sophia to have this destiny, she isn't abandoning her convictions for practical reasons. Brady reminds her that the incident doesn't have to alter everything. Amy will never compromise her convictions. She is therefore acting in her daughter's and the baby's best interests. Brady merely pledges that he and Tate will take all necessary steps to support the child if Sophia is pregnant. Amy informs him icily that's the very least they can do and leaves. Brady responds that he always will, and Tate thanks his father for always having his back. However, Tate informs his father that he must now go to Holly. Holly is looking at her necklace at the Kiriaki's home when Doug calls to say thank you for spending time with him. She claims that last night was more enjoyable than just lounging around thinking about Sophia. Although she hasn't spoken to Tate, the process ought to be over by now. Doug tells her that they can move on after Tate gets home. Holly, you deserve to be happy. She expresses gratitude for his kindness. Holly assures herself it's over when they hang up. Then, trying to apologize for everything, Sophia enters. She doesn't want this and never intended for any of this to occur. After everything she's been through, Holly thinks she's probably exhausted, but she appreciates her. Holly discovers she is still pregnant when she inquires about Sophia's health and her opponent begins to complain about her nausea and becoming as large as a house. Sophia assumed Tate would have informed Holly that her mother had discovered them and put an end to them. Yes, he didn't, in fact. Even worse, she has a method of obtaining what she wants, and her mother is adamant that they get married. Doug is on the phone with Leo at the Horton residence, stating that the necklace's proceeds were insufficient to pay off his debts. Doug ends the call and wishes Julie a happy new year as she arrives downstairs. He asks if she's going to bed after noticing that she's in her robe, but she says she hasn't gotten dressed, she didn't sleep last night, and she's having a lot of trouble. She sobs as she describes what Doug used to do on New Year's Day. She will always have a place in her heart for Doug, but she sobs as Doug 3 gives her a hug. Doug encourages Julie not to feel bad after she withdraws and apologizes. He is happy to be there for her because she has already shown incredible strength. He receives a text message instructing him to meet at the park. He explains that it's from Holly, and Julie says she's okay and that he should go. Ava enters the DeMoros living room and demands that Kristen confess. When Ava reveals that the communications were linked to the house, Kristen stops laughing at her jokes about her silly little text messages. As Rachel listens in at the door, Kristen appears contemplative. Anyone from Chanel to the employees might send the texts, Kristen shrugs. She fabricates a story about how much EJ despises her and why Johnny or Chanel would send the texts. Actually, she is disliked by practically everyone in the house. Okay, admits Ava, but the issue between her and Brady is Kristen's fault. After finishing all of this, Rachel storms into the room and yells, "Leave my mother alone," as she lashes out at Kristen. She orders Ava to go and to quit harassing her mother right now. After that, Kristen and Rachel work together to give Ava one last warning: she will contact the police if the harassment doesn't stop. After leaving, Ava joyfully bounces to the chessboard and moves pieces while Kristen sings, "It was you, wasn't it?" After being pressed, Rachel acknowledges that she might have sent a text or two to get her parents back together. No more texting is one of the ground rules that Kristen establishes. You can't go around threatening everyone because of how you feel about them. Mommy does, as Rachel notes. Uncle EJ, too. Stefano Nano as well. And yes, Kristen understands. Their family doesn't approve of it, but it's time to stop as it creates a lot of enemies, and Kristen doesn't want that for Rachel. When Rachel learns that her mother would punish her for this and make her give up her phone, she is appalled. In order to prevent Rachel from using anything else, they are also altering the Wi-Fi password. Rachel is then sent stomping up to her room by her. "Are you content, Dad?" Kristen insists on seeing his picture. Brady gives a beaming Ava a hug in his doorway. When Ava arrives at Brady's after Tate leaves, they embrace and wish one another a good new year. Brady updates her on Mrs. Choi's visit and her desires for a marriage. What? Brady reminds Ava that she is not to fault for the entire catastrophe, despite her feelings to the contrary. He wants to change the topic, but Ava argues it won't be much better because she faced Kristen and is still receiving texts. She placed the blame on everyone else before Rachel joined her. Brady said he will deal with it once and for all. While Doug is in the park, Holly phones him, but before she can inform him of the situation, Tate arrives. After she hangs up, Tate begins by apologizing, but Holly has already told her everything he intended to say. The fact that he didn't inform her right away made her feel foolish. He is adamant that he and Sophia would not marry, but he simply couldn't figure out how to accomplish it. In 9 months, it will all be finished. Is he joking? Holly notes that it's only the beginning of their child and that it will never end. While Doug is in the park, Holly phones him, but before she can inform him of the situation, Tate arrives. After she hangs up, Tate begins by apologizing, but Holly has already told her everything he intended to say. The fact that he didn't inform her right away made her feel foolish. He is adamant that he and Sophia would not marry, but he simply couldn't figure out how to accomplish it. In 9 months, it will all be finished. Is he joking? Holly notes that it's only the beginning of their child and that it will never end. 2 Goons return to the park and demand the money. They demand to know where the balance is once Doug pays them off. He promises that he will get it. However, time's up. They get closer to him. As the performance comes to a close, Julie checks her messages on the couch and finds encouraging ones from Maggie, Marie, and Jennifer. She begins to cry after deleting them all without replying. Brady interrupts Kristen and tells her to stop sending such foolish and immature texts. If she doesn't stop, he will file a harassment claim against her. Brady yells at her, telling him it was Rachel, but Kristen interrupts him, saying it's not necessary. As Sophia drowns her sorrows in hot chocolate, Tate comes out onto the square, looking forlorn. She spotted Holly, as he already knows. When he spotted her, she became agitated and fled. Holly finds Doug on the ground, his eyes closed and battered, after chasing away the 2 laughing thugs in the park.